Welcome to the Workamper Show, brought to you by Workamper.com. This podcast helps you discover how to finance your RV travel dreams. Each one of our episodes will introduce you to people who are already living the RV lifestyle or to work camping opportunities all around the U.S. You'll also learn how to hit the road the right way and make the most of every opportunity. Now let's turn over today's show to your host, Greg Gerber.
Today I'm speaking with a couple who lived full-time in a rather large truck camper while they traveled around the country looking for the ideal place to lay down roots. They found it in Michigan. Today's episode is sponsored by Workamper News. If you have more questions than answers when it comes to the work camping and RVing lifestyle, then don't worry, Workamper News has your back. Attend their free monthly Work Camping Q&A webinar to get your questions answered. Each month, the knowledgeable team behind Workamper.com hosts a free live webinar where they answer questions submitted by folks just like you who are learning about the RV lifestyle, just getting started, or have been work camping for a while. They cover topics like what kind of work camping jobs are available, what do these jobs pay, tips for writing your work camper resume, questions to ask an employer, what type of RV is best to use, how to get your email as an RVer, and many more topics. Register for the next live webinar at workamper.com/answers. Or listen to detailed answers now by watching recordings of past Q&A webinars on the Workamper News YouTube channel. Visit youtube.com/workcamper and click on the Q&A on Work Camping playlist for a list of more than 15 different videos. Corrina and Bryan Barlow live in a 28-foot Mammoth brand truck camper manufactured by Host Industries. When they first started out, they had no real destination or plan in mind. They just knew they wanted to see America and experience everything it had to offer. They spent 10 years planning for the trip by reading articles and researching the RV and work camping lifestyle. One day, they realized time was passing by, and if they were ever going to do some traveling, they had to do it soon. They left 2 months later. Unfortunately, the day they sold their house in California and moved into their rig coincided with the time COVID shut everything down, including campgrounds. Bryan looked online and discovered a county park in Washington state that was still looking for camp hosts. After one telephone interview, the couple was hired and headed north. Corrina explained that everyone thought COVID would be done in 6 months, so they thought the job would give them a place to hunker down until everything returned to normal. The assignment proved to be quite challenging from the start, but the couple helped save the day by orchestrating a turnaround for the campground. In fact, Bryan and Corrina were featured in a local newspaper for their exceptional work on overseeing the campground. After that stint ended, the couple started traveling around the West Coast and made their way throughout much of America while driving along secondary roads, not interstate highways. They deliberately set a policy that they would not travel more than 300 miles in a day, and they'd stop driving by 3 p.m. to give them time to enjoy the area. Being in a truck camper, they had many more opportunities to stay off-road and away from crowded facilities. To tell us about their travel experiences and work camping jobs they've held, please welcome Bryan and Corrina Barlow to the show. Thanks for joining me today, Corrina and Bryan. I really appreciate your time. I understand you've been traveling around America for quite a while, and you are currently in Michigan. Tell us what you're doing in Michigan.
We've been on the road we're now going on to our 4th year. And we're of an age, we're up there, I'm 72, and you get to an age where you need to see doctors, you need to see dentists, you know what I mean? You just need you need to take care of your health, and it's hard to do when you're full-timing. And when I say full-timing, Greg, a lot of people misunderstand that. Full-timing is when you do not have a sticks and bricks home, where you've sold everything that you own and you live in the rig that you're in full-time. And you travel the country.
You're moving. You're
not in a campground for 6 months. You're not work camping. You're actually moving across the United States. So it's presented challenges. So we've been doing a lot of research, and we decided that Michigan was a good place to have a base that we want to travel from.
Okay. So eventually,
eventually
you're going to stop the full-time living and you're going to get a sticks and bricks or something, find an RV park in Michigan, and you're going to stay there and then travel.
No. we're not looking for an RV park. We're looking for an actual house.
Okay.
A small house that we can park this rig in, or if we get another rig, whatever it is. Because we also plan to do lots of, I'm from England. We need to go back. We want to do some overseas traveling. We've done a lot of it, but we want to do more of it. So it's the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
What prompted you to start RVing in the first place?
That's a good question. We are both, I'm trying to think of the word. We are both, do you know what the term coddywomper means?
Believe it or not, I do.
That's our tagline, is it?
It's to wander purposefully, but in no direction.
Yeah, towards a vague destination. That's hilarious. I give you a gold star. You're the first.
Thank you.
Ever know what that means?
Well, we both have a great wanderlust, and we had planned on this. We had planned on this for years, probably 10 years, talking about it, planning, looking into things, reading articles, and really in depth looking into it. We're not just some wild hair and just all of a sudden just say, okay, let's do it. And we leave in two months. So this was a big plan.
Yeah.
This was a life plan.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. And you have been supporting your lifestyle occasionally by doing some work camping jobs, I understand.
All right. So can I give you the whole story on this, Greg? Yeah. We sold our house and moved into our rig almost the day that COVID hit. We were in California.
Oh, my.
Southern California. And when COVID hit, everything shut down. Everything. We'd already closed on the house. It was April the 1st. And we were like, oh, my God, we were gobsmacked. We didn't really know what we were going to do because the campgrounds were closed down. They weren't even allowing you to go to a rest stop. The truckers couldn't even go to rest stop. It was just, we were really in a bind. So my husband, I'll be honest with you, we had no intention of work camping. None. We just wanted to get on the road and see America. My husband got online and he saw this obscure, almost like a one-line ad. It was, you would never have known if you weren't, and he wasn't even looking really. He was just fumbling around on the internet. And he found this one-line ad for a county park in the state of Washington, outside of Stevenson, a place called Home Valley. And he called.
It was right on the Columbia River.
Right on the Columbia River Gorge.
Beautiful.
And he called the number. Yeah, he called the number and it just, they said, sure. And Brian he's very smart, my husband. He had a whole list of, because we didn't need the job, we needed a place just to get through COVID. We figured COVID's going to be done with in 6 months. That was our idea. Yeah, that was the idea. So we thought, we'll take this job. And so Brian had a whole list of not demands, but these are the conditions that will come here under. And one was that we wanted a full hookup with everything. And there was certain concessions that were made for us. So we go to Washington and they actually had 2 campgrounds that they were looking to host. One was in the mountains. What was the forest?
It was about 20 minutes up the hill.
And that was the initial one that they wanted us to go to. But it was really, we went in the winter, wasn't it? No, because it was dark.
We got there in the beginning of May.
Beginning of May. So it was spring, it was damp, it was wet, it was cold, it was dark. And we thought, no cell service. We thought, no, forget this one. So they took us down to this.
Let me tell him that story. The one that was down on the river, there was already taken by a single woman. But she sees some guy walking through the campground at night with a flashlight. For some reason, it freaked her out. She says, I'm out of here. So all of a sudden it became available and yippee.
Perfect for us. So we started there, but what we didn't know, apparently this campground had been closed the year before. They closed it down for a whole year because apparently, so that was 2019, right? Wait, 2020 was COVID. So they closed it in 2019 because in 2018 and 5 years before that,
Well, no, 19, 18, 17.
Yeah, 3 years. the camp host that they had was misusing the system. He was taking the money. He was pocketing the money.
Oh, no.
He was allowing people to just come and stay without paying. So you had all these squatters. He was dealing drugs. He was allowing drugs to be dealt, and he was taking drugs in payment. It was we didn't know any of this. So we turn up in this campground thinking everything's hunky-dory, and we started having issues. My husband is 6'4". He's quite intimidating. He's a private yacht captain, so he has a military bearing. So we ended up having to, I don't want to say confront, but enforce certain rules. And some of the rules we enforced were not written down. There weren't anything that the county had given us permission to do, but we figured it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission, right? So we just started laying down some rules.
We laid down the law, really.
We laid down the law, and he would go around the campground at 10 o'clock with a flashlight and make sure that everybody was quiet, that all the noise was down. We would walk the campground 3 or 4 times a day. If we saw a vehicle come in, we'd be right over there, taking the license plate, noting it on a pad, making sure that they paid their money. So we did a lot but in a nice way. We're not pushy people. We like to do a job well done. We're very prideful of the work that we do. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Greg?
absolutely.
So,
Also, when we first got there, the place was very tired looking. It needed some TLC, and the county was great. Whatever I asked for, I said, we got a lot of widowmaker trees here. These things have got to be cut. And they came in and they just went to town, and they really did a great job, and they swept and they cleaned, and
they brought in gravel.
I wanted to improve the host area. It was very small, minimal little gravel. I cleared out a massive area of leaves. I said, okay, now fill this up with stone. And we put down stone, we put down barriers, I cut wood. I got it to look really nice. And every time a camper would leave, I'd go out there and I'd rake every single spot and clean it up. And it really ended up being a good position. And we had a lot of people come to us saying, been here years ago. What a difference. Thank you so much.
They had right next to the campground was a public park. And there was a ball field there. There were a children's camp playground and that. And there was a beach down there. And it got so bad before we came that the parents wouldn't allow their kids to come into the campground, even though it was a really nice area next to the river. They just wouldn't allow the kids to come there because of the bad elements.
The reputation.
Yeah. Apparently, we did such a good job that the newspaper of the area put us on the front page.
Oh, that's cool.
And did a whole article on us. Yeah. We felt very proud of what we had done, and we got recognized for it. Now, we didn't get paid for it, Greg. I can tell you. But now we find out that they're paying their
Really?
That's okay.
But
you probably demonstrated to them what happens, that you can get really good people if you compensate them.
Well, I think it's not even a matter of compensation. I think some people have an inbred work ethic.
Right.
It's just something you have. And we weren't interested in getting paid. We just wanted the free site and a place to stay.
Hang out for 6 months for to go.
That was our whole idea. So it was a very rewarding experience. And we met some fantastic people. We got to know the commissioner of the place. We got to know the police. It was just a really rewarding experience for us.
We also found out through the article, because they interviewed the officials of the county, that our one little campground,
27 spots, that was all we had.
Our one little campground had made more money in that 6 months than the 2 county campgrounds combined in the past years.
Yeah.
That's a
in
cool
the past
story.
5 years.
Yeah, so we're shooting our own horn here because we had never done it before, Greg. We'd never composted, and for us, it was a really wonderful experience. And they wanted us to stay on, but we wanted to travel the country. That was the whole idea of why we were doing it. So we just said, no, we figured
COVID was over.
COVID was over. Yeah, but no, it was, so that was that's our camp
Okay.
hosting story.
Super. So after leaving that, you just traveled around and bounced from place to place.
Yeah, we started on the West Coast, right, Brian? And then
But see, the way we travel may be
Right.
different from some other full timers. We know we live in a host truck camper, and we have other host truck camper people, and they'll be in New England. They'll drive all the way across country and go to South Dakota or Washington. Then they'll drive all the way back and down. We don't drive very far. We are definitely into that 3-3 rule. You go 300 miles or stop by 3:00 kind of thing. We don't travel terribly far because I'll plan something that's maybe 300 miles, but I look at a map and there's so much stuff to see in between. And we stay off the major highways because you really see how people live when you get off the major highways. I try to stay away from those. And so, of course, 300 miles on a small secondary road takes you longer. But we discovered there's a great app called Atlas Obscura, which we look at that before I move. And I say, oh, here's something odd and bizarre. Let's go over there and look at it. And then we'll go to the next one. And so we don't get very far, but we find it very interesting.
Yeah.
And one joke I say is that by taking the secondary roads, you see how people live. And in certain states, we actually see a person's entire life history in their front yard. You see their first car, their second car, their first stove, their second water heater.
Where was it? Where we saw? Was it in Louisiana?
It was Pie Town something.
No, we saw a yard where they had their ornamentation on their fences, where all their toasters and all their kettles.
They kind of hung them on the fences.
It was the funniest thing. But I will tell you this now, because regarding what Brian has just said, for anybody that wants to get into this lifestyle, whether they're work camping, whether they just want to travel the country, however they want to do it, we get people asking us all the time, what's the one piece of advice that we could give somebody?
Yes.
For us, you have to decide, first of all, do your research. That's number one. And if I hear somebody else say to me, living the dream, I'm going to spit. I swear to you, I'm going to spit. Okay. I hate that expression. But the main thing you got to decide is how you want to travel. We knew before we bought this truck camper, we knew we wanted to do most of our traveling. We wanted it to be boondocking. We wanted to be able to just pull off secondary roads, go up these roads that an A or a fifth wheel could never go down. You know what I mean?
Yes.
We knew we wanted to be out there. And we knew we did not want to stay in campgrounds unless it was a Corps of Engineer or a federal campground. We weren't interested in KOAs or private campgrounds at all, or a quote, resort quote, right? So that one decision made us decide on a truck camper rather than, we had to make a decision. Did we want to use a tow? Did we not want to use a tow? And that was the other thing. We didn't want to limit to where we could go.
And of course, the West is best.
It's full.
I love the West because there's all these dirt roads and such. And we were in New Mexico and it was getting kind of late. Corrina was saying, okay, we got to start looking for something. So all I did is look for a sign for a forest road. It's a dirt road. We just turned off. And it's just a dirt road, but we went about 150 yards into this dirt road. It wasn't terribly bad. And we came to a clearing up on a high bluff and we're looking out on this beautiful valley. It was quiet. It was private, but no one with a trailer or low clearance or without four-wheel drive, possibly, not that I needed that thing, can necessarily do that. So we have seen some extraordinary places because we have a truck camper instead of a trailer and something that cannot go down these dirt roads. Yeah, I mean, we were on one dirt road in Oregon. I pulled off just on the shoulder. Next morning, we had 2 inches of snow and all these lumber trucks barreling by us down this dirt road. But one other work camping thing we did do, I don't know if you exactly call it a work camping.
Oh, yeah.
Is that we spent a month in Albuquerque, New Mexico at the Albuquerque Balloon Festival.
Fiesta.
We worked that. Yeah, that was the best.
That was fantastic. Everybody should do that once in their lifetime. We got there 2 weeks before the fiesta to help set up. And then we were there for the fiesta. And then we actually stayed we were one of the few people that stayed after the fiesta to help break down. So, yeah, we were part of the field crew, and it was an amazing experience. So actually, yeah, we've done 2 work campers. You would count that as a work camping thing. I say, yeah.
Okay.
So it's just, So I don't know, is this all of this making any sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, you've got it right when you say to use the secondary roads. I've heard a lot of people really enjoy doing that. In fact, they'll turn an entire adventure into that, and they'll start on like US Highway 41 down in Miami and follow Highway 41 all the way up north into Wisconsin to the very small towns and very slower pace. And you really do get a flavor of the travel and the area when you're not on the interstate going 75, 85 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that you just have to decide. Now, there's nothing against. Everybody has their own comfort level and their own. Some people like to be in campgrounds because they feel safer, they feel more secure, and I understand that too. And you'll have some that have families with kids, and they want to have other kids to be able to interact with other families, and I understand that as well. But I just think everybody has to decide how they want to do this.
I think you are the first couple that I've interviewed who have lived full time in a truck camper. So that was good.
We should send you a picture of it because we don't have a truck camper. I'm going to do a little bit of advertising here.
Okay.
We're in a Host Mammoth, which is the largest. It's got 3 slides. We have it on a
Ram 5500
commercial truck. And there's a
22.5-inch tires, which are the size of a semi-truck. So we're tall.
So we're tall. We're 13.6 high. We're 28 feet long. And the truck bed that we're on has cabinets that we use for storage and that. And because we don't like to go into major cities that much, I go to Costco and I load up and I've got all my cans and everything all in my pantry side of the truck. And I have a fireplace in here. Greg, I have a fireplace. It's amazing because it's 28 feet long. You wouldn't think you had that. But anyway.
You're right. They are technically truck campers, but they look very much like Class C RVs.
No, you'd have to see it.
I did. I'm looking at their website. And so that's...
Oh, you are? Yeah. It sits on top, right? It sits on top of a truck. Yeah. I guess from the front, it would look like it's a C.
But we know what's amazing is how many people have no idea what a truck camper is. We tell people, we're in a truck camper. Oh, you mean a C? No. Even the insurance company, when we tried to get insurance for this thing, my insurance agent had to go through all these different agents till they got someone who knew anything about what a truck camper was, so they could rate it.
Darn. Have you faced any challenges on the road?
The biggest I will say this about the rig that we're in. It's 13.6, which means we can't go down some roads because of the height. Trees.
And back east, there's so many low bridges.
Yeah.
We've had to turn around so many times.
Yeah.
Not the West. No, the West is great.
But is that the kind, or did you want, we haven't had any issues as far, because I will tell you this, okay. Because of the way the camper sits on the truck, it's very high off the ground. So we have these very long stairs to get up into the camper. So one of the positives about that is that we can be in the middle of nowhere. We could be in a Walmart parking lot, which we do, or Cracker Barrel, or wherever we are. We know we're not going to have any issues because if somebody wanted to get into this camper, they've got to climb up they're very steep stairs to get into the camper. You can't see into the window because it's above eye level. So we're very secure. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely.
We don't have that we don't have that fear factor going on because of the whole layout of this rig.
Okay.
And
What are some of the favorite places that you've been to where you haven't been work camping?
We have been in places where, like, we were in a campground out in the open by the Salt Lake City, and it was just a big open area.
It was by the No, it's by the Great Salt Lake.
Yeah, yeah. And we're just sitting there, and all of a sudden, with the door open, here comes this big bull buffalo, because there was this little building next door, right next to us, within a stone's throw. And he just walked on right on by and started scratching himself on the building. And we're sitting there, and then it all comes down to the wildlife. It's been great. When you get out there, especially out west, there's wildlife. We've been traveling in the East. I have found, unfortunately, my opinion is that the East is not as RV friendly as the West. And
talk about some of the good places first.
Okay, just the wildlife we're seeing, and the places.
Well,
because we go down these dirt roads, we see the scenery that other people will not.
But remember, one of my favorite was the National Volcano Park. Remember that? Have you been there, Greg?
No, I've not.
Idaho.
I think it's in Idaho. It's a National Volcano Park, and the whole thing is volcanic. So you're in your campground. There's no trees. There's no shrubbery. There's no grass. It's all volcanic lava that you're sitting on top of. It's amazing. And you take these walks along this lava field. You're taking a walk where there are these paths have been created, and you can go down into these lava tubes. And that was one of my most memorable for me. That was me. Because it's not all about nature and trees, although it's gorgeous, and it's not all about the water. This was totally different. And you're almost like you were on Mars or something. Everybody should go there too. There you go.
I agree. That's why people love to do the RVing, is because of these kind of experiences that they can't get, or that they only read about if they're looking in books.
Yes.
And you're out there experiencing this. The volcanic park I believe, is very close to where they have a lot of dinosaur digs as well.
Yes.
So I've been in the area, but not in that particular park. And Brian, you had mentioned that the East Coast was not as RV friendly as the West, and I would have to agree with that, primarily because it was built 200 years ago when the roads were narrow, and the people were building houses that were right next to each other. And it's just, there have been some places. I had a motorhome, 35-foot Class A motorhome, when I was traveling through New England, and it was scary to be on some roads when you had oncoming traffic passing, because there was very little room on the side of the road. In fact, there were a couple of times areas where people would actually park on the side of the road and their vehicles would jut into the traffic lane, and you had to try and navigate around them. It was a challenging experience.
One thing, last spring, we found, I wanted to go to Maine. I'm from the East Coast. I wanted to show my wife the East Coast, especially Maine. I have a sister who lives on the southern part of Maine. So we made a stop there. But as soon as we got near New England, we all of a sudden found it was very difficult to find dump stations. Very difficult. And once we got up into New England, we found they have these water sanitation departments, and you go and they'll open up a grate and say dump right there, but they have no water to rinse or no water to add to your freshwater tank. So I got on the phone, and I spent a week on the phone trying to find a way to work our way up the coast of Maine. And sure, there's tons and tons of RV places, but because Maine has such a short window in good weather, they're charging big dollars.
No, and they won't even let you dump.
Oh,
even if they won't even let you pay to dump unless you're staying there. So you couldn't even pay to dump there.
Okay.
It was really strange.
And I had even looked into the town of Camden, Maine. There was a beautiful little town, I've heard. There was a small yacht club, and I was going to use my captain's license to help them out. I thought it would be a great little town to spend the summer. It was terrific. And I said, all I need is just give me a little corner, a little spot, and where I can get some water. But then the problem is there was nothing within 40 miles where I could dump my black water tank.
Oh my.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So that was because I wanted to get to Nova Scotia, because I have my family background is part of Nova Scotia as well. And I wanted to travel there, but I'd have to drive straight through Maine and get into Nova Scotia, because Maine was such a tough state to deal with.
Yeah. And when we posted it, we have a website for our friends and family. We don't open it up. And we mentioned this on there. And actually, we mentioned it on full-time truck campers.
Yeah.
And everybody said, oh, there's all these campgrounds. Yeah, they missed the whole point. No, you can't unless you're staying there.
You could go into the interior part, but those are pretty pricey too.
Yeah.
But not a lot there. But I wanted to stuff my wife with lobster.
Wow. No, lobster.
And we just couldn't do it, so we left.
Yeah, we only spent
we left the city.
Yeah, that was a bummer.
Corrina, you said that you were able to control your expenses because you didn't have a lot of work camping jobs, so you were living off of your savings and things like that. And you developed a spreadsheet of all of your expenses. How did that come about? And how did it help you?
Okay, so my background is I'm a legal software troubleshooter. So one of the things I would do for these major law firms, I would create their forms, and I'm mouse certified, which means I have a certification in Excel, PowerPoint, Word. So I'm very familiar with all that software. We knew that even if this is another thing, Greg, that we talked about before we got on the road. We knew that we didn't want to support our lifestyle by having to work. We just didn't. We wanted to work when we wanted to work, if we wanted to work. But we also knew we needed to keep a handle on our expenses. So I created a spreadsheet. I also handed it out to some people online that were interested in it. So I created a spreadsheet, and I'm the one that does the book. I write down every single thing we spend, and I'm down to $1 if I buy a lottery ticket. If we buy a cup of coffee, we have a budget that we allow ourselves. So I enter that at the beginning of each. I have it divided into months. So I have I've got a 2020, 2021, 22, now we're in 2023. And I divide it by 12 months. And each month we have a budget limit. And I have put in the formula so that every time I enter an amount, it automatically deducts from that budget limit. And that tells us, and if like this month, because of where we are, and because we've been staying in this fairgrounds that we love actually, while we're looking for a base, we spent more money. So we're going to go over budget. But I'll know that next month I need to keep it within a certain amount to make up for this month. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yes.
I know that we've talked about this online with different Facebook groups, and most of them think that we're anal, that because we mark to the penny, because it's the pennies that add up to the dollar.
Exactly.
And if you're not careful, that cup of coffee, that donut, that can put you over. And I'd much rather spend my money on a lobster than 20 cups of coffee. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
It just allows to know when we can splurge in that. But yeah, so I do an Excel spreadsheet, and I'm very diligent with it.
That's a good idea. I know a lot of people who have done that kind of budgeting, and they would rather spend their money on experiences rather than things and cups of coffee, like you had mentioned. And so it's good to have that discipline.
Yeah, and you might want to also, I'm not one to tell somebody what to do. Everybody has their own system. But if somebody does what I also do, we have monthly payments that go out automatically, like our long-term care, our health insurance, our Medicare, our truck. That is put into my budget automatically. So it's there. So it's not something it's calculated into our budget. It's not over. The budget encompasses everything, not just our daily living expenses. It encompasses everything.
Okay. Very good. Now that you're settling into Michigan, do you plan to continue RVing from time to time?
Oh, definitely. Oh my God. That's the issue we're having, isn't it, Bryan? We can't find a property that we can park this rig and feel secure leaving it for 3, 4, 5 months at a time.
If we decide to fly out of it.
Yeah. If we fly or So we're having a little bit of we're working with a realtor, but it's becoming challenging. So I don't know really what we're going to do. But yeah, we plan on traveling still.
Excellent.
Here and overseas. Yeah.
And overseas. Yeah, very good. Yeah, you can rent a caravan and go all over Europe.
caravan. Look at you. Look at you. Okay.
So this has been a great story, guys. I really appreciated you sharing your experiences and providing some of this insightful advice for RVers to consider. There are two different kinds of RVing and two different kinds of work camping, and you have demonstrated and talked about one of the ones that is very basic and minimal, but you get so many more experiences doing it that way as well. So I'm glad you shared your story, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And as a last thing, we love the United States, and the United States is an unbelievable country. There's so much to see and to talk to people if you keep yourself open to it.
Absolutely.
It's just great.
I enjoyed hearing Bryan and Corrina Barlow's stories about RVing and work camping around the country. They offered some great advice, such as the need to determine how you want to camp before you venture out. For them, they wanted to enjoy off-road experiences. That opened the door to some pretty spectacular scenic places, but they gave up some luxuries to enjoy them. When looking for work camping jobs, Bryan and Corrina sought things that would give them tremendous experiences, not just a free RV site. For example, they spent a month in Albuquerque helping with the annual balloon fiesta. The couple arrived on site 2 weeks before the event to help organizers set up for the crowds of people expected to watch the balloons. They got to enjoy the fiesta while it was underway, but then stayed for another few weeks to help clean up afterward. They really like the flexibility their truck camper allows them because they can go places most other rigs would not dare venture in. They can also get into areas that provide up-close encounters with nature. I like Bryan's story about being in the camper with the open door when a big bull bison wandered by and started scratching himself on a nearby building. Corrina said she loved being able to camp directly on the lava fields at a volcanic national monument. The Barlows did face some challenges, such as having difficulty finding dump stations in Maine and much of New England. The couple did not always have a work camping job, which required them to control expenses to ensure that they could do all the traveling they wanted to do. Corrina created a spreadsheet to track expenses that would show, down to the dollar, what they were spending on and how much was left in that month's budget. After all, as Corrina explained, pennies can quickly add up to dollars, and she'd rather enjoy a lobster dinner than a cup of coffee. I wish Bryan and Corrina Barlow the best of luck as they find a new home in Michigan from which they will continue their adventures in America and overseas. People can connect with them through a private Facebook group called Full-Time Truck Camper Living. Today's episode is sponsored by Workamper News. With its Diamond and Platinum membership tools, Workamper News is much more than just a job listing website. When you put the tools of this professional service into action, you'll find out just how easy it can be to turn your work camping dreams into reality. The one-year memberships open the door to a one-stop shop for all things work camping. Being the original resource for work camping, find the largest number of job listings, be able to connect with a community of work campers, and view resources compiled by experts who've been enjoying the RV lifestyle for many years. If you're serious about leading a successful and enjoyable work camping lifestyle, then a Diamond or Platinum membership is for you. You can even get started with a free 30-day trial by visiting www.workamper.com/trial. Embark on new adventures today with the support of Workamper News behind you. That's all I have for this week's show. Next week, I'll be interviewing a work camper who had quite an experience at her first work camping job. When a bunch of coworkers went tubing in northern Wisconsin one hot day, they encountered a bear in the river. I'll have that interview on the next episode of The Work Camper Show. Thanks for listening.